Even now, I still can't fully explain what happened after Ratih and I entered Casablanca Tunnel that night. According to the dashboard clock, we spent almost 3 hours driving inside a tunnel that should have taken less than 5 minutes to pass through. But the strangest part wasn't the missing time. It was the fact that the same headlights kept following us the entire night. Even though neither of us ever remembered seeing another car enter the tunnel behind us at all. After leaving Menara Saidah, Ratih and I couldn't face going home. We spent the day wandering Jakarta, trying to process the missing time, hidden floor, and bizarre footage. The more we talked, the less rational it all sounded. Something about that building still felt dangerously unfinished. We finally headed home near midnight. Heavy rain emptied Jakarta's streets, making the drive feel eerily quiet. Rain drummed against the windshield as stray headlights passed. Ratih stayed silent, still haunted by what we'd captured inside Menara Saidah. I knew exactly what she was thinking. We entered Casablanca Tunnel. At first, it seemed normal, just endless yellow lights stretching into the dark. Rain echoed faintly above the concrete ceiling, and our engine hummed against the walls. Minutes passed in silence until Ratih turned to me and asked something that instantly made my skin crawl. "How long have we been in here?" I thought she was joking until I checked the clock. We entered at 11:40 p.m. It now read to 17 a.m., 2.5 hours inside a short tunnel. Impossible, my stomach dropped. Ratih's face went pale. We both knew this wasn't right. I blamed exhaustion at first, but Ratih pointed ahead, silent. A maintenance sign we just passed was right there again. Same graffiti, same cracked corner, same flickering light. We froze. We'd just driven through the exact same section of the tunnel twice. Ratih checked her phone, zero signal, yet Google Maps kept running. The route looked normal at first, then slowly began looping endlessly inside the tunnel. The app couldn't find an exit. That's when real panic hit me. Menara Saidah wasn't an isolated incident anymore. "Don't stop the car," Ratih warned, her voice deadly serious. I didn't argue. I kept driving through the endless yellow lights, fighting a creeping dread. Minutes later, headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. Just another car following us through the tunnel, nothing unusual at first. But the distance never changed. No matter my speed, those headlights stayed locked behind us. Strangely, I never saw the actual car, just the lights. Ratih noticed too. Without looking back, she asked quietly, "Did you see that car enter the tunnel?" I hadn't. That terrified me more than anything. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. I blamed rain interference until voices bled through the static, distorted, overlapping, echoing from nowhere. Most of it was garbled. Then, one clear sentence cut through. "You're still inside." The radio instantly died back to static. I hit the gas, desperate for an exit. But the tunnel just kept stretching. The yellow lights grew hypnotic. Every stretch of road looked identical. We were trapped in a loop. Suddenly, Ratih grabbed my arm, her eyes locked on the passenger window. I sped up, hunting for an exit, but the tunnel refused to end. The yellow lights blurred into a hypnotic rhythm. Every curve mirrored the last. We were caught in a loop. Then Ratih's grip tightened on my arm, her eyes fixed on the passenger window in silent terror. I considered slamming the brakes, but the air felt thick, heavy with something unnatural. "Don't stop driving," Ratih repeated, her voice tight. I kept my foot on the gas, pushing deeper into the endless tunnel, refusing to look in the rearview mirror again. Minutes later, every tunnel light flickered out at once. For a second, only our headlights cut through the black. When they buzzed back on, the tunnel had changed. The concrete walls looked older, grimy and stained. The road markings ahead were faded, like decades of neglect had suddenly caught up to us. Ratih noticed it instantly. "Were those trucks here before?" I shook my head. But now, rusted maintenance vehicles lined the shoulder, buried under thick dust and grime. They looked abandoned for decades. In an active Jakarta tunnel, it made zero sense. passing one truck, I caught a glimpse through the side window. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. I dismissed it as a reflection until our headlights swept the cabin. The figure sat perfectly still, shrouded in shadows, staring straight ahead, not moving at all. My hands trembled on the wheel. Then Ratih asked quietly, "Do you remember how we entered?" I froze. I tried to picture it, but the memory was blank. Neither of us could recall passing through the tunnel entrance. It was just gone. The more I focused, the more fragmented the memories became. I knew we entered the tunnel, but the moments in between were just missing. Gaps in time. Ratih admitted she felt it too. That terrified me more than any shadow or loop we'd seen so far. My phone buzzed in the queue folder, not a call or text to Google Maps alert. I checked the screen and went cold. The app claimed we'd already looped through Casablanca Tunnel 3 times that night. The route map showed overlapping circles, trapped in the same stretch. I thought the GPS glitched. Then Ratih pointed to the fuel gauge. It was nearly empty. We'd only driven a short distance, but the gauge matched hours of continuous running. That's when it hit me, something in this tunnel wasn't just messing with our minds, it was warping reality. The headlights behind us vanished. Relief was short-lived. "Look ahead," Ratih whispered. My stomach dropped. Far down the tunnel, another pair of headlights sat motionless in our lane, facing us, completely still in the dark. I slowed down, staring at them. No engine noise, no movement, just dead silence. "Don't get closer," Ratih warned. I didn't need to be told twice. Every instinct screamed to turn around, to get out of this tunnel, whatever it took. As we neared, I realized the lights were identical to the ones behind us. Same brightness, same flicker, same shape. We sat in stunned silence. It felt impossible. Like the same car had teleported in front of us without ever passing. The lights ahead snapped off. Darkness swallowed the tunnel. Then the overhead bulbs flickered and exploded down the line, echoing like gunshots against the concrete. Ratih gripped my arm, staring into the black ahead. I could barely breathe. Only our headlights pierced the dark. Slowly, shapes emerged along the tunnel walls. Multiple figures, standing perfectly still. I blamed exhaustion, but as we drew closer, the silhouette sharpened. Human-like shapes facing the road, motionless, waiting. The flickering light made them hard to see clearly. Some were unnaturally tall, others looked warped. But their absolute stillness was the worst. Not one moved as we passed. They just stood by the walls, watching us drive through the dark. Ratih covered her face, refusing to look out the windows. As we passed the last figure, the radio crackled back on. Static cleared just enough to reveal a voice. It sounded exactly like Ratih's, but the voice on the radio was terrified, repeating a frantic warning, "Don't let it stop the car." I glanced at Ratih. She was pale, just as shaken as I was. The radio voice repeated the warning before cutting to static again. We sat in silence, both understanding the same horrifying truth without saying a word. This wasn't random anymore, something was manipulating us. The clocks, the GPS loops, the repeating walls, the radio voices, it was all connected. I stopped trying to understand it. My only goal now was to get out alive. Then the yellow tunnel lights shifted to a cold, pale white, the exact same shade as Menara Saidah's hidden floor. Ratih whispered, "It followed us." We fell silent. I didn't need an explanation. I already knew exactly what she meant. Finally, an exit ramp appeared ahead. Relief washed over me. I slammed the gas, eyes locked forward, refusing to look at the walls. But just before the ramp, I checked the rearview mirror one last time. The headlights were back, and this time they were right behind us. Through the rearview mirror, I finally caught a clear glimpse of the car behind us. It looked ancient, completely out of place on Jakarta's streets. The headlights illuminated the windshield just enough to make my blood run cold. The cabin was pitch black, no driver, no movement. Yet somehow it stayed locked just meters behind us, matching our speed perfectly without ever falling back. I snapped my focus forward and slammed the gas door of the exit ramp. As we neared it, the overhead lights grew erratic. Some flickered violently, others died completely. The tunnel suddenly felt less like a real roadway and more like an unfinished, artificial construct. Beside me, Ratih kept whispering under her breath, her voice tight, "Just keep driving, don't stop, don't stop." Suddenly, the engine sputtered, my whole body locked up. For a few terrifying seconds, it coughed and groaned like it was about to die completely. I'd never felt panic that sharp before. Ratih turned to me, her face pale with genuine terror. We both knew exactly what would happen if the car stalled in that tunnel. Thank God the engine steadied. I pressed harder on the gas as the exit ramp finally neared. Then Ratih grabbed my arm, pointing frantically at the dashboard clock. The time was moving backward. 2:31 a.m., then to 30, then to 29. The digital numbers flipped downward relentlessly. Even watching it happen felt impossible. Reality was unraveling. I prayed it was just a dashboard glitch, but my phone screen lit up beside me, displaying the exact same impossible countdown. Ratih checked hers too. Same result, both devices ticked backward irregularly as we sped toward the exit. That terrified me more than the shadows. This wasn't a hallucination. Time itself was breaking down. As we hit the exit ramp, the headlights behind us suddenly surged forward. Through the mirror, I watched them rush toward us with zero engine sound. Ratih whipped around just in time. For one split second, the light hit the windshield behind us. A pale figure sat motionless in the driver's seat, staring straight through the glass at us. I swerved slightly and floored it toward the exit. The air inside the car grew thick, making it hard to breathe. Then, all at once, every overhead light behind us died. Absolute darkness swallowed the tunnel, leaving only our headlights and the pursuing lights behind. The sudden silence was heavier, worse than any sound we'd heard. Those headlights kept closing in through the black. "Don't look in the mirror," Ratih shouted, her voice cracking with panic. I locked my eyes on the ramp ahead, refusing to glance back. But even without looking, I could feel them creeping closer, pressing in behind us through the heavy darkness. We finally shot out of the tunnel and back onto Jakarta's streets. Rain slammed the windshield as familiar city lights flooded back in. I'd never felt relief so intense. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. I just drove through the wet roads, trying to steady my breathing. But deep down, something still felt deeply wrong. Ratih turned to look out the back window. The headlights were gone, no old car, no tunnel glow. Just normal rain-slicked streets. I almost convinced myself it was just exhaustion and paranoia. But then Ratih's voice, still trembling, broke the silence. "Pull over," she said, staring down at her phone screen. I pulled over. Ratih showed me her Google Maps timeline. According to it, we entered Casablanca Tunnel just before midnight, but didn't exit until nearly sunrise. That's impossible. We both remembered only 30, maybe 40 minutes inside. Yet the app logged nearly 6 hours completely missing. I hoped it was another GPS glitch. Then Ratih pointed to the route history. During those missing hours, the map showed our car had completely stopped multiple times deep inside the tunnel. The longest pause lasted nearly 40 minutes. That broke me. Neither of us remembered stopping even once. We sat in silence, both realizing the same horrifying truth. Chunks of that night were just gone. Ratih admitted she was feeling the exact same mental disconnect she had after Menara Saidah. Like her memories were fractured. Hearing that terrified me. I suddenly felt certain something was still following us. Ratih's smartwatch buzzed. I expected another fitness alert. Instead, her face went white. The tracker showed both our heart rates had plummeted to dangerously low levels multiple times inside the tunnel. The timestamps perfectly matched the long GPS stops. We were flatlining while the car sat motionless. The data made no sense. We hadn't passed out. Yet the tracker proved something happened during those blackouts. Ratih's voice trembled as she whispered, What if we never actually left the tunnel? I couldn't answer. The question felt terrifyingly plausible. Sitting parked on the shoulder, I caught a faint reflection in the side mirror. I thought it was just another car in the rain, but when I focused, my blood ran cold. The reflection didn't show Jakarta streets. It showed endless yellow tunnel lights stretching into darkness, exactly like we were still inside Casablanca Tunnel. I whipped around to look out the back window. Nothing but empty, rain-soaked streets. I checked the side mirror again. The tunnel reflection was still there. Ratih saw it too. We didn't speak. We just sat in pure terror. The tunnel wasn't just a place we'd escaped anymore. It was attached to us. Even with the engine off, the radio crackled to life. Ratih froze as static filled the cabin. Then, a voice cut through the noise. It sounded exactly like mine, calm, quiet, repeating the same phrase over and over through the heavy interference. "You never left." The moment the words played clearly, the dashboard clock snapped back to 11:40 p.m., the exact minute we entered the tunnel. Seeing it reset broke something in me. It was worse than the shadows or the loops. Because suddenly, I genuinely believed we were still trapped in that night. "Drive," Ratih said. I didn't hesitate. I started the engine instantly, refusing to check the mirrors. The radio died the second the car moved. We drove in dead silence through Jakarta. But no matter how far we put between us and the tunnel, the feeling never faded. Something was still unfinished. The rain eased as we put distance between us and the tunnel. Traffic returned to normal, but the car felt heavy and suffocatingly quiet. Ratih never looked away from her smartwatch. I knew exactly what she was doing, waiting to see if the heart rate drops or missing logs would change again as dawn approached. Minutes later, my phone buzzed with a delayed Google Maps alert. I almost ignored it, completely drained, but the message was different. It marked our Casablanca Tunnel trip as route incomplete. We'd never seen that warning before. It felt wrong on a level I couldn't explain. Ratih asked to see it. The moment she read it, her face tightened. Below the warning, smaller text appeared, "Destination not reached." We sat in silence. According to the data, our drive home was still technically ongoing. Like part of the journey was still missing somewhere out there. It didn't make sense. We were miles away, yet the GPS insisted the trip wasn't over. Ratih admitted she was feeling that same heavy chest pressure from Menara Saidah's hidden floor. Like something was still holding onto us, the car suddenly felt freezing cold. Ratih's phone screen lit up on its own. No notification sound. We expected another GPS alert. Instead, it displayed a blurry photo attachment we didn't remember receiving. She silently turned the screen toward me. It took a few seconds for my brain to process what I was looking at. It was a photo of our car inside Casablanca Tunnel, taken from high above the roadway. But the timestamp was impossible. The metadata showed it was taken nearly 3 hours before we even entered the tunnel. The timeline was completely broken. Nothing made sense anymore. I prayed it was fake, but the metadata was airtight. The location tag perfectly matched the exact tunnel section where we'd supposedly stopped for 40 minutes. Ratih whispered that it wasn't just haunted anymore. Whatever was in there was actively warping time around us. After Menara Saidah, I believed her. The backward clocks, the looping roads, the missing hours, the impossible time stamps, it was all connected. A single, disturbing pattern following us from place to place. That realization terrified me far more than any ghost ever could. Before I dropped her off, Ratih said something I still can't forget. She believes certain Jakarta spots aren't just haunted. They exist between reality, Menara Saidah, Manggarai, Casablanca Tunnel, all connected in ways we don't understand. Hearing that made everything feel infinitely heavier. Just before Ratih opened the door, she froze, staring at the rearview mirror. I thought it was just another car. Then she whispered, voice trembling, "The headlights are back." Slowly, I looked. Deep in the darkness behind us, two distant headlights glowed again, waiting. We froze. Through the rearview mirror, the headlights were back. Faint in the rain, but unmistakable. Same unnatural stillness. Same flickering pattern from Casablanca Tunnel. Ratih slowly stepped back from the door, eyes locked on the reflection. We didn't need to say it. Both of us knew this wasn't normal anymore. I turned to check the street behind us. Nothing but wet asphalt and empty sidewalks. Yet in the mirror, those headlights remained. Hovering in the distance, Ratih's voice trembled. I don't think the mirror is showing the same road anymore. Her words hit me like ice. The reflection wasn't catching Jakarta, it was catching something else. After Casablanca Tunnel, impossible didn't mean much anymore. Ratih leaned closer to the mirror, careful not to touch it. The more she focused, the clearer the background became. Endless yellow tunnel lights stretched into the dark, replacing Jakarta's streets in the glass. It looked fundamentally wrong, like the mirror was a window back underground. Then the headlights jumped forward, not gradually, instantly. One moment distant, the next filling the rearview mirror as if they'd teleported behind us. Ratih stumbled back, my body locked up. For the first time that night, it didn't feel like a haunting. It felt like something from the tunnel was actively crossing into our reality. The radio crackled to life, louder and harsher than before. Distorted voices overlapped through the static. The headlights in the mirror stayed locked behind us. Then, one sentence cut through the noise, perfectly clear. You were never supposed to leave. The speakers died instantly. The silence felt heavier than before. Drive. Now. Ratih didn't hesitate. I slammed the car into gear and sped away from the curb, refusing to check the mirrors. We tore through empty Jakarta streets in dead silence. But no matter how far we drove, the heavy, suffocating pressure from Casablanca Tunnel clung to the car. We hadn't escaped it. It was riding with us. Ratih checked her smartwatch. Confusion turned to dread. The location tracker showed us still moving through Casablanca Tunnel. But we were miles away on surface streets. The GPS path didn't follow the city grid. It dragged endlessly deeper into the tunnel's underground route. Seeing the live data defy reality made my stomach drop. I hoped it was a lag glitch. Then Ratih pointed to the movement data. The speed wasn't matching our car. According to the tracker, we'd been completely stationary deep inside the tunnel for nearly 20 minutes after we supposedly escaped. We had zero memory of that time. Another chunk of our night was just gone. The deeper we dug into the logs, the worse it got. Location pings showed our car existing into places simultaneously. One path moved normally through Jakarta. The other remained trapped in Casablanca Tunnel, looping the same stretch endlessly. The data wasn't just glitching, it looked like reality itself had fractured and duplicated. Ratih finally confessed something she'd held back. Just before the exit ramp, she swore she saw another car ahead, ours, driving toward us in the opposite lane. She'd blamed exhaustion, but after seeing the impossible GPS data, she wasn't sure anymore. Hearing it, my blood ran cold. We hadn't just been looping. We'd been crossing paths with ourselves. I couldn't speak. The repeating signs, the mirrored headlights, the endless loops, it all clicked into a horrifying pattern. It wasn't random. We had somehow intersected with another version of ourselves trapped in a parallel stretch of the tunnel. That thought terrified me more than any ghost. It felt fundamentally, physically wrong. We finally pulled up to Ratih's building as dawn approached. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets eerily quiet. Outside looked normal. Inside the car, nothing did. Before getting out, Ratih made me promise one thing: never drive through Casablanca Tunnel alone again. I agreed instantly. Some promises you don't hesitate to make. Just as Ratih reached for the door handle, she froze, her eyes locked onto the rearview mirror. She pointed silently. I forced myself to look. The headlights were still there. Same distance. Same yellow tunnel glow stretching behind them. Even miles from Casablanca, the reflection remained trapped inside it. The detail unsettled me to my core. The moment Ratih stepped onto the sidewalk, the headlights in the mirror snapped off. The tunnel reflection vanished instantly, replaced by normal Jakarta streets. But the sudden silence felt worse. It didn't feel like the tunnel was gone. It felt like whatever was inside had simply stopped watching us, for now. Driving home alone after sunrise felt wrong. Every underpass, every dark reflection in the glass made my chest tighten. My sense of normal space had shattered. I couldn't stop thinking about Ratih's theory. These places weren't just haunted, they existed somewhere between realities. And I had no idea how to close the door. Hours later, lying in bed trying to sleep, my phone buzzed. Another Google Maps alert. I almost ignored it. Then I opened it. My stomach dropped. The app claimed my trip through Casablanca Tunnel was still active. The route icon was moving in real time. While I lay paralyzed in my apartment, the tunnel hadn't let go. I told myself it was corrupted software, but the path was disturbingly steady. The GPS tracked me pushing deeper into the tunnel while my phone sat on my nightstand. I physically checked every room in my apartment, suddenly terrified I hadn't actually made it home. That doubt alone scared me more than anything I saw underground. Before I could close the app, an image auto-loaded on my screen. No sender. It showed my car parked deep inside Casablanca Tunnel. But the tunnel around it was decaying, dust covered the asphalt. Broken lights hung from the ceiling, and my car. It looked aged, rusted, decades older than it should be. The worst part wasn't the decay, it was the metadata. The timestamp placed the photo nearly 6 years in the past. Long before I even moved to Jakarta, that broke me. I stopped trying to rationalize it. Casablanca Tunnel wasn't just bending space, it was tangled with time itself. I avoid Casablanca Tunnel completely now. Ratih does too. But what haunts me isn't the missing hours or the ghost cars, it's the notifications. Late at night, my Google Maps timeline still updates on its own. According to the app, some version of me is still driving endlessly through that tunnel, even now. A few nights later, Ratih called, panic in her voice. The smartwatch logs from Casablanca Tunnel had changed again. The route wasn't confined to the tunnel anymore. It extended outward, tracing a direct path through Jakarta streets straight to my apartment building. The trail didn't end underground. It ended at my door. She sent screenshots. The data was undeniable. A continuous path left Casablanca Tunnel near sunrise, weaving through city streets until it hit my complex. But the timestamps were hours after we'd parted ways. Neither of us remembered driving together after that morning, so who or what was walking that route? I assumed another GPS glitch until Ratih pointed out the speed data. The movement wasn't matching a car. It was slow, steady, consistent with someone walking alone through early morning Jakarta. The moment I saw it, my stomach twisted. It felt exactly like the 10,000-step anomaly from Menara Saidah. We sat in silence. The pattern was clear. Menara Saidah hadn't ended there. The missing movement had followed us. Ratih finally confessed something else. In the tunnel's final stretch, she swore she saw a figure walking beside the wall. It matched my silhouette perfectly. I didn't know what to say. She said the figure didn't walk naturally. Its movements were stiff, copying human motion incorrectly. At first, she blamed exhaustion, but after the tracker pointed to my apartment, she wasn't sure anymore. Neither was I. It genuinely felt like something from the tunnel had latched onto one of us and followed us home. That night, I pulled up my apartment security footage. I needed proof it was nothing, hours of empty halls. Then, at 3:14 a.m., the feed glitched. When it cleared, someone stood directly outside my door, motionless. The silhouette made my breath catch. It looked disturbingly familiar. I couldn't breathe. The figure matched me exactly. Same height, same jacket from the tunnel drive, but the posture was wrong, rigid, unnaturally still. It faced my door for 12 straight minutes, then the camera glitched again. When the image returned, the hallway was completely empty, just silence. I almost deleted the footage, blamed paranoia. But then I noticed the timestamp overlay. During those 12 minutes, the clock kept shifting backward and forward, irregularly, flickering, exactly like the dashboard clock inside Casablanca Tunnel. The anomaly wasn't just outside, it was in the recording itself. I showed Ratih the next morning. She went completely quiet. After watching it loop several times, she finally whispered, "It doesn't look like it's trying to get in. It looks like it's trying to remember how to." That explanation hit me harder than any threat. It wasn't hostile, it was lost, and somehow, that was worse. I still check Google Maps late at night, hoping the tunnel route finally vanished. But between 2 and 4 a.m., it flickers back to life. The app shows a version of me still moving endlessly through Casablanca Tunnel. After everything with Menara Saidah, I've stopped trusting what's real. I only know what's watching. A few nights later, Ratih called again, voice shaking. She dug up old Menara Saidah smartwatch screenshots. At first glance, normal, but zooming into one path, she found it. The movement loop on the hidden floor matched the Casablanca Tunnel route exactly. Same pattern, same distortion. It wasn't a coincidence, it was one. My chest tightened instantly. The parallels weren't coincidences. Ratih believed both locations were tied to the same phenomenon. Missing time, warped space, repeating paths, impossible GPS data. The more we compared them, the more the patterns aligned perfectly. To separate places, one identical nightmare. Then Ratih dropped the worst detail. The route histories intersected at one exact coordinate, not inside either building. Deep beneath the city itself, underground, it wasn't isolated hauntings. It was a network, hidden spaces somehow connected beneath Jakarta's reality. And we'd walked right through the seams. I prayed it was another mapping error. Then she sent the screenshots. The intersection sat directly beneath Casablanca Tunnel. But on the map, that exact spot was blank, no streets, no buildings, no data. Just a dark void where reality should be. The app refused to render it. Like something was blocking the signal. The blank space terrified me more than any shadow. It felt intentional. Like the map physically couldn't process what was down there. Ratih stopped believing in random paranormal encounters. She thinks certain Jakarta spots are anchors, portals to something larger hidden underground. And Menara Saidah and Casablanca are both tied to it. Desperate for answers, I scoured old urban legends about Casablanca Tunnel, ghosts, phantom cars. But then I found archived forum posts from years ago. Multiple people reported missing hours, passing the same tunnel sections endlessly. Never reaching the exit, reading them made my skin crawl. We weren't the first. The details matched ours exactly, repeating yellow lights. Dashboard clocks breaking, cars without drivers. Radio voices warning not to stop. Our experience wasn't unique, it was a pattern. Something had been happening in that tunnel for years. And according to the oldest posts, some people never made it out at all. One post haunted me. A man vanished for hours driving through the tunnel alone. When he returned, he swore the tunnel followed him home. It appeared in mirrors. In reflections, reading that sentence froze me. I instantly remembered the rearview mirror. The endless yellow glow behind us. It wasn't just following him. Then I noticed the profile picture, the anonymous forum user's avatar. It was identical to my current Google account photo. I assumed a glitch. But the post was dated 6 years before I even created the account. The timeline broke again, my face, my account. Attached to a story from the past I never lived, I stopped trying to make sense of it. This wasn't just haunted locations, it was identity erosion. The missing hours, the duplicate routes, the mirror reflections, even the impossible account data. It was all one pattern. Something tied to those places wasn't just affecting space, it was rewriting us. Moments later, my phone buzzed again. I dreaded opening it, but I did. My blood turned to ice. Google Maps showed my current trip still actively moving through Casablanca Tunnel. In real time, while I sat perfectly still in my apartment. The app insisted I was underground, even though I wasn't. Then the GPS icon froze deep inside the tunnel. A new prompt appeared. Vehicle stopped. Seconds later, passenger exited vehicle. I felt sick reading it. According to the timeline, someone had just stepped out of the car inside Casablanca Tunnel. Moments ago, while I watched from my living room, I couldn't move. The apartment felt suffocatingly still. Then I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoing down the hallway. The rhythm matched Menara Saidah exactly. The pacing grew closer, then stopped. Directly outside my door, dead silence followed. I held my breath, waiting. Every instinct screamed not to open the door. Then, one soft knock echoed against the wood. My phone vibrated. Another map's alert. You have arrived at your destination, but the route origin still read Casablanca Tunnel. I hadn't arrived home. The tunnel had delivered me here. I still don't know what happened after Menara Saidah or Casablanca, but one thing terrifies me most. Late at night, between 2 and 4 a.m., I still hear those calm footsteps stop outside my door. And every time Google Maps updates, according to the app, some version of me is still trying to find the way home. If you enjoyed this episode of Nusantara Nocturne, don't forget to subscribe for more Indonesian urban legends, existential horror stories, and paranormal investigations inspired by real locations across Indonesia. Honestly, after everything that happened inside Casablanca Tunnel, I still don't know what disturbs me more. The missing hours, or the possibility that something else may have left the tunnel with us that night. Let me know in the comments what you think actually happened inside Casablanca Tunnel. Do you think Ratih and I experienced some kind of paranormal phenomenon? Or do you think we never actually escaped the tunnel at all? And if you haven't watched the previous episodes yet, you can start from episode 1 to follow the full story surrounding Mount Salak, Manggarai Station, Menara Saidah, and the strange reality distortions that started affecting us afterward. Until next time, stay safe, and if you ever find yourself driving through an empty tunnel late at night, make sure the road behind you still leads back to the same reality you came from.